श्री श्री गुरु गौरांगगंधार गिरिधारी श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जू की जय। नित्यानंद विष्णु विष्णुपार शुतर शुत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय। नित्याल्प विष्णु विष्णुपार शुतर शुत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्याल्प विष्णु विष्णुपार शुतर शुत शिशिमार भक्ति महाराज की जय। नित्य भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्याल्प नित्याल्प विष्णु विष्णुपार। Oh, whoa. The internet's really not working now. Hmm. Nityalapavishtam Vishnu Arashutarishatashmar. Sorry. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki jai. Nityalapavishtam Mahabhagavat Babaji Maharaj jai. Nityalapa Vishnu Vaishnava. Just say it again. I was focusing. Nityalapa Vishnu Parashutarishitashishma. Shri Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nityalapa Vishnu Maha Bhagavat Shri Gorksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanu Korya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath. Shri Jeev Gopala Bhattadas Raghunath Shar Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Surup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrind ki jai. नामचय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुर वृंदावन धाम की जय। जय श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री रानी वृंद देवी की जय। शिव जय। नित्यानंद विष्णु विष्णु पार्षद भक्ति विज्ञान भारती गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्यानंद विष्णु विष्णु पार्षद शुत शिशुमार भक्ति बलवर तीर्थ गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्यानंद विष्णु विष्णु पार्षद शुत शिशुमार भक्ति दायित माधव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्यानंद विष्णु विष्णु पाद अश्वतर शतश्री भक्ति प्रमोद पुरी गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्यानंद विष्णु विष्णु पाद श्रीमद भक्ति रक्षक श्रीधर गोसाई महाराज की जय। श्री रूपानु गौरिया गुरु वर्ग की जय। जय all the associates of Jagat Guru Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada की जय। जय श्री निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Okay, I think the internet is working better here. Upstairs in the room I'm staying in, I don't think it was working well enough. Okay. अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिशे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindaya Tulsi Devaya Priyaya Keshavasacha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Dandavat pranams, Anadi Krishna Prabhu, and everybody on YouTube and Facebook. I see Ganga Mataji, I'm guessing Indira Mataji, Raseshwari Mataji, and everybody else. If you write a comment, I'll see your name. So today I decided to just keep on reading from the same issue of Raise of the Harmonist that we read from yesterday. So today we are reading an article by Śrīla Bhakti Dayita. This is Raise of the Harmonist 2004 Kartika, issue number 14, if you ever want to find it. This is an article by Śrīla Bhakti Dayita Mādhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja called Have I Made a Mistake? So I'll just jump right into it. 1 second, let me find it. There. Have I made a mistake? So beautiful, huh? Okay, so my doubt. A doubt occasionally arises in my heart. I think, have I made a mistake in accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas? It certainly seems so. I appear to have made a mistake in taking up bhajan and accepting the shelter of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and specifically in taking refuge of the Gaudiya Math and dedicating all my senses to serving the Math. Gaudiya Vaishnavas are not big-hearted. When we perform bhajan under their shelter, we're controlled by so many rules and regulations. If I were to take refuge of some other sampradaya, where there is no concern for offenses such as Vaishnava Parad, Nama Parad, or Dhamma Parad, I'd feel no such hindrance or botheration. I would not be obliged to develop exclusive devotion for a particular object of worship, such as Radha and Krishna, nor would my eating habits be curtailed. In the Math, issues like Vaishnava Parad are raised, and it often impedes my unrestricted sense enjoyment, my lawless gossiping, and other whimsical activities. It would therefore be better for me to live outside the Math than to be governed by such restraints. Haribol Chaitanya Mataji. Also, I forgot to mention all the devotees who are watching in the future, like Shachi Devi, Jaidev Prabhu, Krishna Rose, Ananda Pradini, Vrinda Didi, and Haribol Madhubala Didi. Hare Krishna. So yeah, it would therefore be better for me to live outside the Math than be governed by such restraints. Sometimes I even think it would be best for me to abandon the shelter of a Gurudev as controlling as mine altogether, and to accept the mantra elsewhere, from someone who doesn't demand that I pay attention to all the rules and regulations. Thus, I occasionally contemplate severing my ties with the Gaudiya Math completely. What stops me, however, is the thought that if people were to find out I have broken my connection with Sri Guru, it could jeopardize my prestige and position. Discipline and deceit. The Vaishnavas of the Gaudiya Math are one-pointedly engaged in worshipping Sri Gaurangadev and Sri Radha Krishna under the guidance of Sri Rupa Goswami Pad, and the best among his followers namely Śrīla Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswāmī. Krishna Prem is their only goal and their only practice or sadhan. There is no absence of affection or devotion in the sadhan of the servants of the Gaudiya Math. Hence, they will never support any endeavor that is unfavorable to the cultivation of affection for Sri Krishna. What auspiciousness can a sadhan bring if it can't offer its practitioner any way to attain his cherished goal quickly? Or if it can't even offer him, and when propagated, tends to only attract followers. For those content to pass their lives without purpose or restriction, what use is there to accept the lotus feet of Sadguru, a transcendental teacher? But those who can see their own faults and anarthas, and who try to become free of them, develop an urge to become qualified to taste the bliss of prem for Bhagavan. Only they can remain in the shelter of saintly devotees endowed with this prem. They can experience the happiness of being engaged in the service to Bhagavan by living under the guidance of such one-pointed devotees and following their instructions. This involves subduing their senses and abstaining from whimsical activities. On Haribo, Rukmini Didi, and Champak Mataji. Those who make a show of accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Guru simply deceive themselves. They pretend to be self-controlled and reformed, but internally maintain their previous bad impressions, and especially the tendency to strive to gather followers. In other words, they recruit followers on the pretext of accepting the shelter of Sri Guru with the aim of fulfilling their selfish ends through their so-called disciples. The attempts of such arrogant and duplicitous people is to attain auspiciousness. Their attempts to attain auspiciousness are endlessly frustrated. To be a disciple means to be disciplined or controlled. If a person outwardly accepts the shelter of Sri Guru, but arrogantly maintains the attitude that he knows best about his spiritual life, then he is but a cheater, deceiving both himself and others. Pure Gaudiya Vaishnavas are most magnanimous and bestow the highest auspiciousness. If we can become eligible to understand even a single aspect of their exemplary lives, we will become attached to sadhan bhajan and be filled with jubilation and devotion. Bhakti lies beyond renunciation. Those who possess Krishna Prem are neither enjoyers nor renunciates. They are not karmis, fruit of workers. Neither are they jnanis, persons cultivating knowledge of the impersonal Brahman. Those who perform activities opposed to scriptural injunctions, they honor karmis who abide by scriptural injunctions. And when karmis who are eager to enjoy the results of their endeavors see the external renunciation of jnanis and renunciants, they may be attracted to them. However, those who hanker for Bhagavad Prem disregard both of these paths. They are attracted only by behavior that nurtures the cultivation of this Prem. Someone who is not aspiring for Prem for Bhagavan will perceive only enjoyment or renunciation in the behavior of the devotees. If he takes shelter of them upon observing their external renunciation, he may for a while consider himself blessed to be in their company. Krishna Prem, however, cannot be attained by external renunciation. Unless one has faith grounded in philosophical truth, that's tattvika shraddha, or has affection for the swarup of Bhagavan, he cannot become attracted to the behavior of Bhagavan's devotees. The characteristic of such one-pointed devotees is that directly or indirectly, they only cultivate love for Shri Krishna. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavrtam anukulena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. That's from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11. The cultivation of activities that are meant exclusively for the pleasure of Sri Krishna, or in other words, the uninterrupted flow of service to Sri Krishna performs through all endeavors of the body, mind, and speech, and through the expression of various spiritual sentiments, bhavs, which is not covered by gyan, by knowledge aimed at impersonal liberation, and karma, reward-seeking activity, and which is devoid of all desires other than the aspiration to bring happiness to Sri Krishna, is called Uttama Bhakti, or pure devotional service. One must deliberate upon this verse. The activities of a devotee of Krishna, such as establishing a mat, a spiritual institution, constructing a temple, meeting with materialistic or aristocratic people, hosting festivals with pomp and grandeur, and giving instructions to ignorant or faithless people, these are all Shuddha Bhakti. Yes, the activities of a devotee of Krishna, all these different things, constructing a temple, meeting with materialistic or aristocratic people, hosting festivals with pomp and grandeur, all these things, when performed by a devotee, are Shuddha Bhakti. To serve Bhagavan and the devotees, one may supervise the construction of a temple or a house of a devotee, collect materials, purchase supplies, and accept the lowly propensity to beg. Such activities are supremely pleasurable, and they nourish one's bhakti. What is true renunciation? Kushti viprer ramani pativrata shiromani pati lagi koila veshyar. Sorry, I sung this in the wrong thing. Kushti viprer ramani pativrata shiromani pati lagi koila Veshar seva stambhilo sujero gati jiailo mritapati tushta koilo mukyatina deva. It's from Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya-lila 20:57. The wife of a Brahmin suffering from leprosy showed herself to be the topmost of chaste women by serving a prostitute to satisfy her husband. She thus halted the movement of the sun, brought her dead husband back to life, and satisfied the three principal demigods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwar. We should consider this account in the light of our discussion. That chaste Brahman wife's service to a lowly prostitute in the sincere endeavor to please her husband enhanced her glory. She thus became worshipable for the entire world. What's more, she became very dear to Sri Bhagavan. If, however, she had performed this service for her own sense pleasure, or for dharma, artha, kama, or moksha, it would have been reprehensible in every respect. Similarly, activities such as constructing a mat, meeting and talking with materialistic or aristocratic people, hosting grand festivals, and bestowing Sri Nam Mantra to faithful persons sincerely desiring to serve Sri Bhagavan, his devotees, and his Dham, all aspects of Vaikuntha, enhance bhakti and ultimately cause prem to appear. Those same activities, however, bind one to this material world if they are performed with the aim of gratifying one's senses, accumulating wealth, women, and fame, or attaining dharma, artha, kama, or moksha. Such an important teaching here. Oh, and Haribol, Niri Haribol, and Bhavatarani Mataji. Yeah. In this world, renunciation means to relinquish the objects of one's attachment. But can ceasing to take foods that merely aggravate a disease, for instance, be considered renunciation? Right? Like if somebody's sick and they have a special diet, then all of a sudden are they renounced because they're eating like a sadhu? Abstaining from foodstuffs that destroy good health and instead accepting foods that increase longevity can hardly be celebrated as a great act of renunciation. Thus, it is hard to see how the act of renouncing one's father, mother, relatives, friends, wealth, occupation, business, or worldly duties performed to gain material comforts can in itself be glorious. Only when a person renounces the objects for his mundane pleasure for the pleasure of the complete entity, Sri Bhagavan, expecting no sense enjoyment in return, can his renunciation be considered actual renunciation. In other words, true renunciation entails not striving for dharma, artha, kama, or moksha, or for wealth, women, and adoration. Ordinarily, it is considered irreligious to forsake the duties of the scriptures. It is irreligious to forsake the duties the scriptures prescribe for one's varna and ashram. But if these duties are discarded for the pleasure and satisfaction of Sri Krishna, who is the cause of all causes and the bestower of supreme bliss, then and only then is such renunciation honorable. Indeed, such renunciation, which benefits everyone, is to be revered. To renounce endeavors for sense gratification, that is, endeavors in one's search for happiness in this world or in the next, is courageous and glorious. But the topmost renunciation is to abandon everything, even one's independent will and desires, for the pleasure of Bhagavan Sri Krishna and his one-pointed devotees. Renouncing the mind's propensity for independence, in other words, the sacrifice of one's very self, is far superior to renouncing that which is inert and temporary. The glory of one's renunciation lies truly in the glory of the object of such sacrifice. Sri Bhagavan and his devotees who possess prem are unlimitedly glorious, and therefore to renounce for their pleasure is supremely noble. Such renunciation is incomparable because it increases the happiness of all living entities by reawakening their relationship with Sri Bhagavan. It does not admit even the slightest scent of distress. Rather, the renunciant feels increasingly happy at every step. It can therefore be concluded that such renunciation bestows bliss in every respect and is highly esteemed. Fruitive workers, or karmis, make sacrifices and perform austerity with the hope of attaining increased mundane sense pleasure in the future. Such renunciation is therefore meager and does not bestow complete happiness. Jnanis, who aspire for impersonal Brahman realization, make sacrifices and perform austerity to dispel their own suffering. Their renunciation also does not bestow full happiness. The sacrifices and austerities of Krishna's devotees, however, are meant exclusively for the pleasure of Sri Hari. Since Sri Krishna is the cause of all causes, such renunciation bestows true welfare upon the devotee and upon others. Therefore, Gaudiya Vaishnavas greatly honor those activities that promote love of Bhagavan, and they reject activities that hinder it. In this sadhan, any sense enjoyment and renunciation that is favorable to bhakti is highly regarded. Yet devotees are not attracted to sense enjoyment and renunciation in their own right. They are attracted to love for Bhagavan and his devotees. They have no independent or whimsical desire to enjoy or renounce. Yukta Vairagya, renunciation for the pleasure of Sri Krishna, is their only sadhan. Without understanding bhajan rahasya, the secrets of bhajan, one will become bewildered by what sense enjoyment is and what renunciation is. Both are impediments in the sadhak's cultivation of prema for Bhagavan. Wow, it's similar to what we were reading yesterday also, isn't it? Talking about, ended with yukta vairagya. Okay. Those who have realized that this human life offers an invaluable opportunity to work towards attaining the supreme goal prize every moment of it. They are unwilling to waste even an instant in any other endeavor. They know that living entities and other species of life do not have the facility, they don't have the facility or good fortune to make progress towards the supreme goal, and accordingly, they see no value in living their lives in the manner of the lower species. Hence, upon attaining this extremely rare human life, and on top of that, attaining the fortune to associate with sadhus and developing shraddha for the supreme goal, they cannot quietly squander a single moment of their lives. Rather, they will accept only what is favorable to the cultivation of affection for Sri Krishna, and will reject all activities that are unfavorable to it. As such, the devotees of the Gaudiya Math instructs the world to engage only in those practices that are righteous and favorable to the cultivation of Krishna Prema, and to reject unrighteous activities that impede it. Moreover, they never indulge in violence or envy, as this hinders the cultivation of Prema. My doubts resolved. Thus, if I am genuinely searching for Krishna Prema, I have not, after all, made any mistake. I have not made any mistake in accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of pure Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Such Vaishnavas will not fuel our desire for dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, or our hankering for wealth, women, and adoration. The purpose of the Math is to help free us from these anarthas and attain Krishna Prema. By taking shelter of the lotus feet of pure Gaudiya Vaishnavas in the Gaudiya Math, beggars for Krishna Prema become qualified to attain their greatest welfare. Moreover, they receive the opportunity to achieve the highest ideal of magnanimity and to ascend to the topmost level of pure vairagya, renunciation. This is my unshakable conviction. One cannot be deviated from attaining prema for Bhagavan in due course unless one becomes a severe offender. One day, by the mercy of Śrīla Prabhupada, the world will profusely glorify and worship the Sri Saraswat Gaudiya Vaishnavas, that is, Śrīla Prabhupada's followers. They alone are able to establish the highest ideal of benevolence in the world. Victory will certainly belong to the devotees of the Gaudiya Math, or those who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. I have not, therefore, made a mistake in accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of pure Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Rather, I have wholeheartedly embraced the good fortune of attaining my highest welfare, and thus I am truly blessed. So this essay was originally penned in 1966. It's translated from Śrīla Bhakti Dayita Mādhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja's magazine, Sri Chaitanya Bani. Wow, that was beautiful. Okay. What time is it? 7:30. Wow, we still have a good amount of time. Shh. Shall we read Amar Bhajan? That's one of my. Let's read Amar Bhajan. I don't know which issue that's in though. Amar Bhajan. Let me just try to find it really quick. No. Amar Bhajan. Just give me 1 second. I know where I can find it. I have this. Let's see. Śrīla Bhakti Dayita Mādhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja there. Okay. Amar Bhajan is in issue number 11. Okay. Okay. Hopefully, I have enough time to read this. Such an amazing article. Where is it? Why is it here? Anyways, okay. Amar Bhajan, my devotional practice, also by Śrīla Bhakti Dayita Mādhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja. Why I renounced the world. I have long left worldly life. Why did I leave it? I did it simply to engage in bhajan, devotional service. Bhajan of whom? Shri Krishna. Why bhajan of Shri Krishna? Shri Krishna is the sole cause of all causes, and I have an eternal connection with him only. Who is Shri Krishna? Shri Krishna is that existence which is saturated with complete bliss. He has the ability to attract all other living entities, and by virtue of this, he personally experiences bliss and also bestows bliss upon others. He is replete with unlimited knowledge. The seers of the truth know him in his threefold aspect of complete knowledge, existence, and bliss. Tattva Vastu, the absolute reality which is fully Satchid Ananda, is indeed Shri Krishna. Who am I? As a part of his potency, I too am composed of existence, knowledge, and bliss. I am not Vastu Tattva, the absolute reality, but as part of his potency, I have the aspects of existence, knowledge, and bliss. Therefore, I have an eternal relationship with him. What type of relationship do I have with him? I have a relationship in every respect. I have a relationship in every respect with Shri Krishna only. Shri Krishna has two energies, material, apara, and spiritual, para. I, as the conscious existence, the soul, am the cause, and part of Shri Krishna's para energy, and my existence in the form of the effect, the body, is part of his apara energy. Knowing that I belong to him in every respect, I renounced worldly life to eternally dedicate myself to his bhajan. My gross, subtle, and spiritual bodies are forever related to Shri Krishna. Thus, with all my senses, I will at all times and in all circumstances attempt to engage myself in his service alone. This is my bhajan. My initial resolve for bhajan. Now a question arises. Was it not possible for me to stay in my normal worldly life to practice such devotion? Of course, I certainly could have remained there, but I would have had to cater to the tastes of others. This was the main obstruction I faced in living amongst those who were antagonistic to Shri Krishna's service. That was unpleasant. I never wanted to make my valuable life unsuccessful by spending even a moment of it in activities other than serving Shri Krishna. To attain the opportunity to constantly engage my different senses in loving service to Shri Krishna, I obtained by great fortune the association of a most compassionate person who is the abode of affection, the dearmost servant of Mahaprabhu. With loving compassion, he overlooked my disqualification, and to enrich my greed for bhajan, he accepted me as his own. Upon receiving a touch of his mercy, I enthusiastically resolved to engage all my senses exclusively and continuously in the bhajan of Shri Krishna. Consequently, I set out with determination to follow all the primary injunctions of the scriptures regarding the cultivation of knowledge of the soul, and not of this temporary material body. Surfacing of my anarthas. Spiritually inclined people saw that I was becoming indifferent to material affairs and that I was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual practices. They started to honor me, considering me a sadhu, a saint. And thus I became respected. I had resolved to one-pointedly cultivate spiritual life by submitting myself for rectification as a disciple. Unfortunately, however, I once again started to hanker for the luxuries of this body and for worldly prestige, impelled by my previous bad samskars. my bad impressions. I had always greatly revered and loved my Gurudev. Now, however, due to this burning urge to satisfy my senses, many a time I think him an obstacle to my devious ends, and have started looking at him with a different attitude. I no longer consider him my well-wisher. I have some reverence for him, so I cannot control him, nor can I accept his discipline, because it would hinder my whimsical nature. Thus, I find myself stuck in these two crises. Although I had originally resolved to perform bhajan of Sri Krishna, gradually I have forgotten this aspiration. My endeavor now externally exists in name only. In fact, other than desiring to satisfy my senses, nothing brings any substantial delight to my heart. I used to consider myself fortunate upon gaining any opportunity to serve Sri Krishna, but now I see such opportunities as troublesome. I used to feel myself blessed upon attaining service to Srila Gurudev, but now that very same service seems burdensome. I used to be enthusiastic to serve devotees, that is, Vaishnavas and saintly people, but now I am apathetic to the very suggestion of such service. My mind becomes perturbed if I am not always praised and honored in every way by being offered an elevated seat, costly clothes, and palatable dishes. Fearing public opinion, I often feel too shy to openly express such expectations. But I'm too shy to express such expectations, wanting costly clothes and palatable dishes and elevated seats. Wait, yeah, I often feel too shy to openly express such expectations, but I wonder how long I would continue to be counted as a bhakta if I did not receive all this. The sole pleasure of my senses has become prominent, taking the place of Sri Krishna's bhajan. Now my priority is to serve my senses. If by chance I perform some service for the sake of Sri Krishna and Sri Guru and Vaishnavas, after or during the course of my selfish pursuits, then and only then, then and then only am I able to perform bhajan. If by chance I perform some service for the sake of Krishna and Guru and Vaishnavas, after or during the course of my selfish pursuits, then and only then am I able to perform bhajan. The hypocritical attitude. Although I daily used to sing the glories of Sri Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas, now within my mind, I consider myself non-different from them, that is, equal to them. I am gradually trying to accept their position, and I cherish the desire to attain this world with the Vaishnavas and Sri Bhagavan as my servants. My object of worship is no longer Sri Krishna, but my whimsical nature. In public gatherings, I never failed to collect fame as a great Vaishnav by openly declaring myself the servant of Sri Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas. However, the truth is that within my heart, I refuse to consider myself inferior to them at any cost. The external respect I used to give Sri Guru and Vaishnavas was only a device to establish myself in the society as a saintly man and thus earn prestige. Assessing myself. It is not that I have not reflected time and again that I have become immersed in this sorry plight. I used to consider that knowingly or unknowingly, I must have committed some Vaishnav aparad. Offenses to devotees usually lead to the waning of bhakti. Slowly, such offenders end up being victims of sensual urges and entrapped by kapatata, that's self-deception. I am sometimes able to detect my faults, but because I fear public opinion and the loss of my false pride, I am reluctant to win the good grace of the devotees by humbly asking their forgiveness. I am more involved with winning the false adoration of worldly-minded people, and I neglect the pleasure of Sri Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas. My extreme misfortune. Sometimes, to impress the ignorant and eager for their adoration, I pretentiously take to the practice of solitary bhajan. And sometimes, I take to the occupation of a mendicant, engaging in begging for my subsistence. All these attempts, however, do not satisfy my restless mind, and because I do not receive my full expectation of adoration, my unrestricted mind finds substitutes to satisfy it. In this way, my bhajan of Sri Krishna now culminates in attempts to secure wealth. I don't know how to say that word actually. To sorry, lies, I guess. To lies with women in the hope of attaining their merciful glance and make them do my bidding, or to secure fame. Seeing my wretched condition, my true well-wishers and friends on the spiritual path repeatedly counsel me to refrain from these. They repeatedly counsel me to refrain from these whimsical activities and take again to the protective guidance of Guru, Vaishnavas, and Shastra. Previously, when I considered their instructions to be nectarian, I bade farewell to worldly pleasures and came to perform bhajan, spiritual practices. My extreme misfortune, however, now keeps me in the guise of a saint, directly or indirectly impelling me to become mad in the pursuit of wealth, women, and prestige. Instructions for my welfare no longer seem beneficial. I had heard that Shastra mentions two paths, Shreya, the superior spiritual path, and Preya, the way of natural tendencies. I had left Preya to pursue Shreya, but my misfortune has brought me back to my old ways. I am no longer eager to hear holy recitations of Srimad Bhagavatam or anything about Sri Bhagavan. How many times will I have to hear the same old stories? That's what I think. How many times will I have to hear the same old stories? Drowsiness usually overcomes me as soon as I give my attention to such narrations. But sleep does not disturb me at all when I relish common worldly gossip. Then I'm fully awake and alert. I could remain wide awake the entire night just to engage in such gossip without experiencing the slightest distaste for it. I have forgotten the words of Bhagavatam. Therein it is stated, Shrinvata Shraddhaya Nityam Grinatash Cheshtitam Kalena Natidirgena Bhagavan Vishate Hridi. This is the second canto, chapter 8, verse 4. It says, for those who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and who always take its subject seriously, the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna will manifest in their hearts within a short time. The message of Sri Krishna in the Sri Gita regarding Abhyas Yoga, constant devotional practice, has slipped from my memory. Having heard a little about bhakti, I have impulsively began to profess well-versed knowledge of it. I am convinced that with my senses, which are full of lusty desires, I have understood what a bhakta is meant to be, and now only Sri Bhagavan remains to be, only Sri Bhagavan remains to be known by me. I understood what a bhakta is meant to be. Now I just need to realize Sri Bhagavan. I have forgotten that the transcendental aspect of bhakti and the bhakta cannot be reflected upon or understood with my mind, which is full of sensual desires. Similarly, I have forgotten the glories of surrender to the Supreme Lord and the Spiritual Master. Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo namedhayana bahuda shrutena yame vaishavrinute tena labhyas tasyaisha atma vivrinute tanung swam. That's from the Mundaka Upanishad. The Supreme Lord is not attained by expert explanations, vast intelligence, or repeated hearing. He is attained only by one chosen by He Himself, and He manifests His own form to that person. Even after repeatedly hearing these words of the Shrutis, I do not remember them. And I have forgotten that the association of the Bhaktas and Bhagavan is never attained by the ascending process. The ascending process, that means through my own efforts, without begging for mercy, but just through the ascending process. I can do it myself. I observe that sometimes my mind is inclined to perform austerities, and at other times it is inclined to perform pious activities, even though I fully know that neither of these processes can bring one to the association of the bhaktas and Sri Bhagavan. But I have forgotten this. Rahu ganaitat tapasa nayati, na chejaya nirvapanar grihadva, na chandasa naiva jalagni suryar, vina mahatpada rajobhishekam. My dear King Rahugana, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing celibacy, brahmacharya, strictly following the rules and regulations of householder life, leaving home as a vanaprastha, accepting sannyas, or undergoing severe penances in winter by keeping oneself submerged in water or surrounding oneself in summer by fire and the scorching heat of the sun. There are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of a great devotee. That's also second canto, third chapter, verse 23 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Naishamatistavar urukramangrim sprishyatyanartha pagamo yadartha mahiya sampadarajo bhishekam nishkinchananam navrinityavat. Unless they smear upon their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnav who is completely freed from material contamination, persons strongly inclined toward material life cannot be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified for his uncommon activities. Only by becoming Krishna conscious and taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord in this way can one be freed from material contamination. That's Prahlad Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.32. So Śrīla Bhakti Dayita Mādhava Gosvāmī continues. He says, I have forgotten the earlier vows in pursuit of devotion that I took in the presence of my spirit. Those vows were in connection with my being. My only ambition was to serve Sri Krishna along with his parikars. I started to perform bhajan with the highest objectives to be had within the realm of this universe. Why I have then rejected it all to take to the insignificant and temporary pursuits of trivial sense enjoyments, which are generally misery bound. Why have I rejected? Why have I then rejected it all to take to the insignificant and temporary pursuits of trivial sense enjoyments, which are generally misery bound? I do not reflect upon the cause of this with a sober frame of mind. The pretense of yukta vairagya. I once used to think that to maintain my life, ample wealth was necessary, and that a woman who can submissively cater to my whims was necessary for the satisfaction of my senses. Now I read such verses as Jata Shraddha Matkatasu Nirvinas Sarva Karmasu Veda Dukakam Kaman Parityage Yanishvara Tato Pajetamam Pritta Shraddhalur Tridanishtraya Jushamanas Chatan Kaman Dukkodarkanksh Chagarhayan. So this verse means having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all objects, all sense enjoyment, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Although he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities, such Srimad Bhagavatam 11:20 verses 27 to 28. So he says, now I read such verses as those two. But on the pretense of adopting yukta vairagya, I have become complacent. I reflect that, after all, in my stage of sadhan, which is full of anarthas, bad habits are bound to exist. I therefore think that these statements have given eternal license to my passions. As long as I'm aware of the as long as I'm aware of the bad habits, right, then I can just engage in them. I therefore think that these statements have given an eternal license to my passions. But these statements actually mean that gradually one must control these inferior habits and selflessly endeavor for bhajan with no expectation of any return. I support my anarthas on the strength of another fault by thinking that for a sadhak, these anarthas are bound to exist. This fault is known as vipralipsa, the tendency to cheat. There is no scriptural support for such unrestricted indulgence of the senses. This too I have forgotten. Until I become eligible to relish Shuddha Bhakti Ras and absorb myself in the service of bhaktas and Sri Bhagavan, Shastra has cautioned me not to give up bhajan, but to perform it while accepting those sense enjoyments that are necessary, all the while condemning them. If I do not condemn such sense enjoyment, but fondly accept it, I have no way of ridding my heart of it. I have forgotten all these statements. My dismal state of affairs. In fact, meditating on the glories of lust, sense enjoyment, the association of women, sufficient wealth, and worldly fame will surely lead me to become eventually attached to them. I came to perform exclusive bhajan of Sri Krishna, but I have been allured by the glories of associating with women. I have rejected celibacy to yearn for marriage, having forgotten its transient nature. What fate would await me if I married? Previously, I had definitely renounced this world. But contemplating momentary pleasures afforded by wealth and forgetting the grief that accrues in such ventures, I have become enamored by the endeavor to accumulate wealth. I'm eager to win the fickle adoration of worldly people who are blinded by their madness for sense gratification, and I do not reflect upon the anarthas that accompany such deeds. I have therefore disregarded the instructions of Sri Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas, and displeased them. At times, in my mad pursuit for distinction and prestige, I have not only neglected and offended them, but have become opposed to them. It is not that my dismal state of affairs has not disturbed me. Many a time I've analyzed my depraved life and how by leading it I have despoiled my chances of attaining the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, who is supreme auspiciousness and full of bliss. I've spoiled my chances by acting against my own ultimate welfare. Within my mind, I sometimes become determined to lead a righteous life in every respect, but impelled by the results of my previous actions, sometimes unknowingly, I become unrighteous. In this state, I ask, is there any hope for my ultimate welfare? I definitely think so. Full dependence on Bhagavan's mercy. I may fail any test in any circumstance, but I will not be discouraged. I will continue to traverse the path of sadhan bhajan, and my master, who is eternally worshipable for me, most compassionate, and the deliverer of the fallen, will definitely shower his blessings upon me. Krishna kripa koriben, dhrita kori jane. That's in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 23, verse 28. It says, Krishna kripa koriben, dhrita kori mane. A fully surrendered devotee always hopes that Sri Krishna will be kind to him. This hope is very firm in him. Dubalo jadi na tu dube va. That means even if my boat has sunk, I will not give up my efforts. This principle will give me strength. I will not become bereft of hope at any time. No tendency other than bestowing bliss can remain in Bhagavan. No tendency other than bestowing bliss can remain in Bhagavan, who is the embodiment of complete bliss. He is the controller of everyone, and therefore, in his dispensation, there must be an arrangement to bestow bliss and only bliss upon me. I am his servant, so he will surely protect and maintain me. Of this there is no doubt. Bhumau skalita padanam, bhumir eva valambanam, tvai jata paradhanam, tvam eva sharanam prabho. Just as the ground is the only support for those whose feet have slipped, You are the only shelter, even for those who have offended you. That's from the Vigyapti Panchak. We just read that verse the other day, haven't we? I think it was yesterday. Okay, so remembering this statement again and again, begging everyone forgiveness for my offenses, and fully dedicating myself to the service of Bhagavan and his dear associates with determination. I will continue to offer prayers to the Bhaktas and Bhagavan with a service attitude. It is only by their merciful blessings that I can overcome all my tendencies other than to perform bhakti and attain bliss by rendering service unto them. Service to the Bhaktas, that is Guru and Vaishnavas, and Bhagavan is indeed my bhajan, my devotional practice. This is translated from the magazine, Śrīla Bhakti Dayita Mādhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja's magazine, Sri Chaitanya Bani, Year 3, Issue 1. And this is shared with us, shared to raise the Harmonist by Śrīla Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj. Okay. Wow. What a powerful article, huh? The whole article is just like, like so much just, but at the end, it was just filled with all hope. There's never a reason to not have hope, no matter what. I just love this here. I may fail any test in any circumstance, but I will not be discouraged. I will continue to traverse the path of sadhan bhajan, and my master, who is eternally worshipable for me, most compassionate and the deliverer of the fallen, will definitely shower his blessings upon me. I will not become bereft of hope at any time. No tendency other than bestowing. Yeah, anyways, such a powerful article. So this is Amar Bhajan by Śrīla Bhakti Dayita Mādhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja. All right, it is now 8 o'clock. So we will end our program for today. Yeah. My Gurudev said about Śrīla Bhakti Dayita Mādhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja, he said, I have often received the opportunity to associate closely with our revered Shiksha Guru, Śrīla Bhakti Dayita Mādhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja. He was serene, tolerant, grave, and endowed with many other qualities befitting a Vaishnava. He preached Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message of divine love widely throughout India with great vigor. The special feature of his preaching was that he taught by personal example. He emphasized that we should be humbler than a blade of grass and more forbearing than a tree, and that we should offer respect to everyone without ourselves desiring respect from others. His unique quality was that he honored all his godbrothers. This is truly ideal. If we can sincerely follow his teachings, our Guru Puja will be successful. As my Gurudev spoke that in Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math in Vrindavan on 17th November 2003. All right, so that's our program for today. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. जय श्री सच्चिनंदन गौर हरि की जय, श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय, श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन जू की जय, जय श्री गुरुदेव की जय, जय श्री परम गुरुदेव की जय, जय श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री रूपानु गौरिया गुरु वर्ग की जय, सब पातशाह जी गौ नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय, श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीगण की जय, श्री गिरिराज महाराज की जय, श्री तुलसी महारानी बिंदु देवी की जय, जय नित्य विष्णु विश्व भक्ति दयित माधव गोस्वामी. Sorry, Srila, yeah. Śrīla Bhakti Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki jai. Jai Śrīla Bhakti Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki jai. Jai Śrīla Bhakti Dayita Mādhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja ki jai. All the associates of Jagat Guru Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vrindai Tulsi Devai, Priyai Keshavascha, Krishna Bhakti Padadevi, Satyavatai Namo Namaha. Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhe Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams, dear devotees, Anadi Krishna Prabhu, Chattamai Mataji, Champak Mataji, Rukmini Didi, Nri Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarani Mataji, and let's see all the devotees on YouTube and Facebook. Who is there? Um, ah, oh, here. Ganga Mataji, Madhubala Didi, Pramila Didi, Amit Dandekar, Hare Krishna, Vidya Lalasa Didi, Indira Mataji, Raseshwari Mataji, and all the devotees watching in the future, like Jayadev Prabhu, Shachi Devi, Krishna Rose, Ananda Pradayani, Vrinda Didi, and everybody else. Dandavat pranams. Yes, Rukmini Didi, you have something to share? Oh, my volume's not working. It's you went you unmuted, and so I thought you had something to say. Is my volume not working? Huh. I can't if you're saying something I can't hear it. Sorry about that. But yeah, does anybody have anything they want to mention? Otherwise I'll okay. So thank you so much and I'll see you all tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe. Hari Bol. I don't know what we'll read tomorrow. We'll just see whatever happens. I'm not 100% sure if I'll be able to read tomorrow because I need to um I'm leaving back to Vrindavan tomorrow. I don't know what time I'm going to go though. I'll probably go after the reading. We'll probably have a reading.